Excuse me, sir, I have a delicious cherry pie and I'd like to find out how heavy it is.
Well, you need to take it over the rainbow then.
What? Why on earth would I do that?
Haven't you heard the song? Somewhere over the rainbow, weigh your pie.
Before I get started, I just wanted to say that I'm recording this video on November the 5th, which is bonfire night here in the UK, so if you hear any fireworks, I apologise. But anyway, let's get on with the card, and oh boy have I been waiting for this one. The 10 of Cups is easily one of the best cards in the tarot. Get a load of that. Everyone's happy and joyful, there's a big old rainbow in the sky and 10 cups floating about in mid-air. Who needs gravity when you've got boundless joy? Arthur Edward Waite says, appearance of cups in a rainbow. It is contemplated in wonder and ecstasy by a man and woman below, evidently husband and wife. His right arm is about her, his left is raised upwards. She raises her right arm. The two children dancing near them have not observed the prodigy, but are happy after their own manner. There is a home scene beyond. Now that's important. Not the bit about the flapping arms, that's just confusing. The grown-ups are gazing in wonder at the rainbow, but the kids are happy enough just gadding about. Possibly playing Ringa Ringa Roses, which is all about the Black Death. Actually, forget that bit. The point is that while the adults are blown away by the rainbow and the gravity-defying cups, the nippers are just having a great time anyway. As ever, Rachel Pollack sums this up beautifully. She says the man and the woman in the picture understand these things. Arm in arm they look up and celebrate the rainbow. The children, however, dance without looking up. They symbolise innocence, which takes happiness as the natural condition of life. We've got the same stuff in the background that we've seen on lots of other tarot cards. The flowing river to symbolise emotions, the house to represent family and security. In many ways we can see this as the culmination of the Suit of Cups. Now I've touched on this before, but I feel like I want to make a distinction between the concepts of happiness and joy. We definitely saw happiness in the last card. The 9 of Cups is all about that surface level happiness we get from feeling secure and having everything that we need. Going off on a bit of a tangent, I've mentioned before that whenever I make one of these videos I feel like I live through the card. Well, last week I brought a newish car from a second-hand dealer. Not because I wanted one, but because my old car was basically falling apart and becoming an environmental hazard. I was worried that Greenpeace were going to start following me around with placards.
They finally killed my car, dude.
Now, I've been driving old bangers for so long that I had no idea what it was like to drive a modern car. But once I got over the fact that there's no key or handbrake, and that it looked like a spaceship inside, and that I was going to be in crippling debt for the next 5 years, I felt this real sense of security in knowing that it's a lot less likely to break down. Now that's the 9 of Cups right there. When Waite described the 9, he said that it offers the material side only, but there are other aspects, possibly alluding to a deeper level of happiness. But if you've seen that video, you'll know that I said there are other cards in the deck that do a better job of illustrating that concept, and the 10 of Cups is exactly that. In this card, we're not talking about the superficial stuff at all. We're firmly in the realm of deep emotional joy. Not something that we can attribute to a car, or having a kitchen full of wine, or a bedroom drawer full of new underpants, but rather an unexplainable feeling of immense well-being. You know, like when people say someone looks like they're glowing, I think it's that feeling shining out of them. There's a wonderful quote from Roald Dahl that goes, "A person who has good thoughts cannot ever be ugly. You can have a wonky nose and a crooked mouth and a double chin and stick out teeth, but if you have good thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams and you will always look lovely."
Sounds like there's hope for you after all, Kippy.
So I think that's why the happiness we see on the 10 of Cups is more abstract than it is on the 9. On that card we see the fella looking satisfied because he's got his 9 cups of wine lined up. Whereas on the 10, it's a rainbow with cups floating in the sky. This isn't something that we've got, it's something that we are. For this reason, I see the 9 as outer happiness and the 10 as inner happiness. So if it is the case that I'm going to live through each of the cards when I make a video, then can I have some of this one now, please? If anyone's listening, hello?
Oh, that'll be interesting when you get to the 10 of Swords.
Now, I talked earlier about the 10s being the culmination of the suit, and we definitely saw that in the 10 of Wands. As we know, Wands is the suit of fire, and that represents will. In the 10, we see the idea of someone being so filled with will and desire that they've taken on too much and ended up being oppressed and completely overwhelmed by it all. The Cups, on the other hand, is the suit of water, which represents emotions, so the 10 symbolises overflowing emotional joy. Rachel Pollack says, as the highest number, the 10s signify being filled with the quality of the suit. In wands we saw an excess of burdens. In cups we find joy and the wonder of life spread across the sky. On the Thoth card we've got 10 positively gleaming golden cups, and behind them is a super elaborate thing.
Do you think you could tell us what that is?
Yeah, but it would take too long to explain.
Cobblers, you don't know, do you?
No, I don't. It does look cool though. Crowley says the arrangement of the cups is that of the Tree of Life, and we can see that pretty clearly. Lady Frida Harris has laid them out in the same positions as the 10 Sephiroth. She's also gone for a very red design to tie in with the planet Mars, which we'll get to later. The Sforza Marseille cards have just about got enough room to squeeze in 10 cups and a few flowers for the final pip card of the suit. We've got Captain Birdseye on the Solar Busker card, and he does not look amused. To be fair, neither would I if I had 10 cups clattering around my head and some mental looking thing attached to my beard.
The number 10, which is complete, indicates the central meeting point of insights of all types.
Well, that's good to know. Those insights are gonna need a place to meet.
You've got no idea what you're talking about, have you?
No.
The Hermetic title for the 10 of Cups is Lord of Perfected Happiness.
So we've moved on from material happiness to perfected happiness, and this takes us back to what we were talking about earlier.
So what's the difference between happiness and joy?
Well, according to an article I was reading in Psychology Today, happiness can come from eating a slice of pizza, whereas joy is far more complex than a feeling or an emotion. Pamela Epstein King is a professor of applied developmental science and has studied this subject in great detail. She says, I suggest that joy is most fully understood as a virtue that involves our thoughts, feelings and actions in response to what matters the most in our lives. Thus, joy is an enduring deep delight in what holds the most significance. She then breaks this down into 3 areas that she claims deeply inform joy. These are 1. Growing in authenticity and living more into one's strengths. 2. Growing in depth of relationships and contributing to others. And 3. Living more aligned with one's ethical and spiritual ideals. Now, I'm barely scratching the surface here, so I'll put a link in the description to the full article because I found it really interesting. The other title for the card is satiety. I had to look that word up because I'm stupid. The dictionary definition is the quality or state of being full or gratified to or beyond capacity. That's the direction that the Thoth card is going in. Milo Duquette says, had enough, the 10 of Cups could have been filled with the realization of the potential of the Suit of Cups. Which it is in the Waite-Smith deck, I'm just saying. Instead, it is just filled with the concept of fullness. The cups have runneth over and are staining the carpet. The carpet needs changing anyway. The dog's piddled all over it and it's covered in wine stains from the drunk fella on the 9.
I'll have you know I'm absolutely sober.
The 10 of Cups corresponds to the Pisces zodiac sign and to the planet Mars.
The cosmic fishes have made it all the way over to the planet Mars. As we know, Pisces is the mutable sign associated with compassion and spirituality. Mars, on the other hand, is the planet of action and aggression, so this combination can lead to a very complex and subtle energy. Aleister Crowley says Mars is the gross, violent and disruptive force which inevitably attacks every supposed perfection. His energy displays the greatest possible contrast with that of Pisces, which is both peaceful and spiritualized. The active element of Mars, when combined with the compassionate energy of Pisces, can make someone highly motivated by a sense of idealism and a strong desire to help others. It relates to the 10 of Cups in the sense that there is a powerful need for complete emotional fulfillment, but the path that leads us there takes us through kindness, empathy and understanding. A bit like what we talked about in the Strength card back at number 8 in the Trumps. Mars in Pisces celebrities include iconic singer and actress Marilyn Monroe, visionary Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh, and Paris Hilton.
The 10 of Cups resides in the world of Briar and sits at the 10th Sephira of Malkut, at the very bottom of the Pillar of Mildness.
So we've come straight back down to Earth for this one. Malkut is the Sephira of the solid physical realm. As we're now in the land of material manifestation and in the watery world of Briar, we can look at this Sephira as a kind of endpoint, where the spiritual and emotional energies of the higher Sephiroth come to fruition in the physical world. This fits well with the concept of the 10 of Cups, as the card symbolises the realisation of emotional fulfillment and unity in the material plane. On the Tree of Life, Malkut hangs pendant to the other Sephiroth and has been used by Kabbalists to describe the endpoint of the fall of man, which Milo Duquette brilliantly says was never about the mythical fruit-eating incident. According to Dion Fortune, there remains for our final consideration the Sephira of Malkuth, the kingdom of earth. It is a false Sephira, for it was cut off from the rest of the tree by the fall.
The Ten of Cups herb is marijuana. This herb is commonly used as an aid in listening to Pink Floyd albums.
Shine on, you crazy sapphire.
But what does it all mean?
The Ten of Cups is a card of ultimate happiness, emotional fulfillment, and harmony in our relationships. It can signify a time of emotional well-being and a sense of togetherness. It's basically brilliant in every way.
So it's the same as the Sun card then, isn't it?
Not quite. The sun has those aspects too, but it's more about emerging from the darkness of confusion and into the bright sunlight of spiritual understanding. You should know you had to journey through the darkness to get to it.
Oh no, don't remind me.
Arthur at Waite says contentment, repose of the entire heart, the perfection of that state, also perfection of human love and friendship. So in addition to the concepts of spiritual joy, we also get this idea of domestic bliss. The card can suggest that you're in a positive and supportive environment where you can share your happiness with others, but basically it refers to any time that we get that feeling of deep emotional joy and contentment. Rachel Pollack says showing a family, the card refers primarily to domestic happiness, but can indicate any situation that brings a surge of joy.
When reading for a woman, this is a clue that some needle pricks were given to her in female council.
Better watch out for that then.
When for a man you read, this card predicts that he will have a duel and that it will end with a good lunch.
Oh, look at that old bean. It appears we've both missed.
I say, why don't we forget all this and go for a spot of lunch instead?
What a spiffing idea.
It's opposite day when this one appears upside down. Anger, resentment, kicking off at each other and just generally having a bad time. Waite says reversed, repose of the false heart, indignation, violence. Rachel Pollack offers two meanings for the reverse card. She says first, all the emotion turns against itself. Some highly charged situation, usually romantic or domestic, has gone wrong, producing violent feeling, anger or deceit. So it looks like the desire to spread the love around has gone out of the window, and instead we're all arguing over who gets the last cookie. She goes on to say, or in practice, the reverse 10 can mean that a person simply does not recognize or appreciate the happiness life is offering him or her. Now that takes us back to the Sun card again, and it's something that we see in a lot of these joyful cards when they appear upside down. That things are actually going really well for us, but we're so wrapped up in ourselves and our insecurities that we just can't see it.
In the reverse, this card announces a very nasty quarrel.
No, I'm not having any of this nonsense. I'm sorry, but the music stopped and your leg was definitely wobbling. The big takeaway for the Ten of Cups is finding complete emotional satisfaction, and that can be something that we choose for ourselves. William Butler Yeats once said, "When such as I cast out remorse, so great a sweetness flows into the breast. We must laugh and we must sing. We are blessed by everything. Everything we look upon is blessed."
Thank you for braving your way through another bout of mystic twaddle. May the coming days bring you joy and the happiness to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.